Hi, everybody. It's so nice to see you all. Thank you for joining me on this Thursday, earlier than usual. I got some stuff to do that I have to do this afternoon. I'm sorry I didn't get a chance to break down Mando yesterday. I have some stuff to say about it. I think I'm going to combine my Mando coverage and my Bad Batch coverage maybe into a video tomorrow. Bad Batch was really good. It was shockingly good, actually. So try to watch that if you would like to see my spoiler coverage by tomorrow morning. Also, I did see the texts from Jonathan Majors. I personally don't think that's the slam dunk that he might think that it is. But let's see. I have a number of people, people seem to be pretty split in the response to that. I saw a number of people saying, he's absolved, he didn't do anything wrong. But I felt that, it looked not great, basically, if you haven't seen the text, to Janeba, hey, Christian and Joe, basically, his lawyer released some text to TMZ where it's pretty much breaking up with his girlfriend, and she is just apologizing profusely in the texts. But she does say, I told them it was my fault that I grabbed your phone and I shouldn't have done that. And so you're like, what does that mean? It was not great. It's not great. Let's see how that progresses. I think the book's still open on that, but I probably wouldn't have released those. That's right, Stephen. It seems, it's tough. It's tough. Hey, Tribble. All right, so yeah, juicy stream. Who knows what'll happen tomorrow? Yesterday was crazy. So as always, please try to keep your comments to the subject at hand. I will maybe answer your question or comment while I'm speaking, but I will have a Q&A at the end of each section. Hey, thank you, Juan. And specific to that subject matter. And then at the very end of the stream, you can ask me anything you want for the final 10 minutes of the stream. So go to town. I don't have to answer, but I probably will. I'm pretty good about that. And happy anniversary to us. You're almost at your gold badge. All right, so here we go. Hold on. All right, so let's get started. Story number 1. Hold on. Boop. So yesterday, hey Platinum Diva. So yesterday, Clayface, you might have noticed, for those of you who have Twitter, it was trending. Thanks, Jerome. Jerome gives a membership every single stream. It's so nice. Hey, Jose. So Clayface was trending almost, number 1 for quite some time yesterday, which was weird because it was kind of a non-story. But I think that a lot of people picked it up. A lot of people picked up, like a lot of small Twitter sites picked it up, and they started running with it being for sure, when in fact it's only a maybe. So the actual, hey Chris, the actual Hollywood Reporter first broke a story. It was a complex story. I think it wasn't Hollywood Reporter. Somebody ran it as The Dish, because I think the trades are trying to get more into scooping, although Mike Flanagan would confirm it on Twitter. So Mike Flanagan apparently went to DC Studios, the new DC Studios. Hey, it's new talent. That's exciting, right? And I think it's hilarious that Mike Flanagan has his leading lady is almost always his wife. So there's some camaraderie there with Gunn and Safran. So Mike Flanagan went and pitched a Clayface solo movie. But they didn't say yes, but they didn't say no. It's like they're thinking about it. It's still an option, basically. So, he pitched it. But then they're saying they might not use this idea because in recent scripts for the Batman 2, which apparently keeps changing, Clayface is a villain in that film. So that'd be a lot of Clayface. But, it doesn't seem necessarily either one is going to happen. But basically, there's conversations about Clayface over there. Now, I think Clayface is a fantastic character when used correctly. So you can see I have some images here in the photos here in the frame. The one behind Batman, Battinson, and Mike Flanagan, that's Mike Flanagan there, That's Clayface in the comics these days. I think he looks pretty cool there. He's going to take a lot of VFX unless they do the cheap shape shifting. Because Clayface is not only a giant mound of clay, but he also can, he's a shapeshifter. He can impersonate people like Mystique does. And he's a former actor, which I thought was always a very interesting part of the character. So the character on the top left there is him in his original appearances in the comics. Then in the middle, that's him on the animated series, where I thought the character was very well done. And I think a lot of current fans were introduced to the character there. And then, yes, on the bottom, that's him on the Harley Quinn series, where I think many of us have a love-hate relationship with that character. Let's do a poll. Okay, let's start with a poll of who's your favorite Clayface. We'll do Harley Quinn, animated, Batman, the animated series, and then we'll just do comics version. Okay, there you go. So you can vote in that. So yeah, he's very cool in the animated series. But I think in the Harley Quinn show, I think he's become kind of annoying. I don't like the character very much. But he sometimes will have a good joke or a line where I'm like, he's pretty funny. All right, so let's talk about these two options, right? So one is Mike Flanagan will direct a solo Clayface movie. What is this, Sony? And I saw a couple of people talking about that. Clayface, and the Clayface would be somewhat heroic. What? Clayface is a member of the Batman Rogues Gallery. And the only way that he could exist in a non-Batman story would be the Matt Reeves Arkham Asylum series that he was thinking of doing. I think that it's absolutely ridiculous. That's right, Platinum Diva. Why? Why on earth you would try and present some kind of altruistic, positive portrayal of the character in his own movie? It's beyond stupid. So I can't believe they're even entertaining the idea. I think that would be an immediate no. But apparently they are. That's very scary to me. Very scary. Hey, we see. Also, I have to say, I really like Mike Flanagan's Netflix shows. I think they've been phenomenal. They're the haunting ones, And also, that he did a recent kind of religious one, too, which I thought was excellent. What was it, like Midnight something? So he did the 2 Haunting of Hell Houses and whatever. And then he did like Midnight Mass, yes. And it was really good. Very, very good. There was one episode that I fast forward a lot of it because they monologued too much and it was too depressing. But otherwise, loved it. That guy, what's the name of the guy who started Midnight Mass, who was the preacher? He'd be a pretty good Clayface. He was on The New Adventures of Old Christine. He's like something Haymark or something. I think that would be, he would actually be, I put his name into one. Hamish Linklater, thank you. I think he'd be pretty good. Hamish Linklater. But I have to say that Mike Flanagan's movies have been consistently awful. Dr. Sleep, I know there's some Dr. Sleep fans out there, the Shining sequel, but the thing totally failed. It was a horrible box office disaster. Maybe that's one of the things that's keeping his pitch from getting a yes. So, that's pretty funny as Azami, Scarlett Johansson for Clayface. She looked so great, though, with her Janet Leigh hair from Psycho in the Asteroid City trailer. But yeah, I agree with Slow-Mo. Mike Flanagan does seem to have some third act struggles. I think he's better for a series than a movie, and I would be nervous about him directing a movie, especially where he had a lot of creative control. Look at that. Nico says, I love Dr. Sleep, but Jennifer says, Dr. Sleep put me to sleep. Oh, that's funny. I love it. Hey, Elmen Show. I tried to like Dr. Sleep. It's one of the worst movies I feel I've ever seen. But, he does certainly have his hardcore fans. And I think that he has a brand that kind of fits with DC. So I can see why they talk to him, but I don't think I'd give him a movie. I'd be like, do you want to direct an HBO Max show? All right, so I definitely wouldn't do a solo Clayface movie. I think it's a really stupid idea. Let's take a break and look and see what the poll was, and then I'll ask you what you would do about a Clayface character. All right, so your favorite character, 56% with Batman the Animated Series, 25% likes the Harley version. That's interesting. And then just 17% likes the comics version. I don't think he's ever been particularly well established in the comics. Hey, Elmentia, thanks for subscribing. All right, hey, Matt. All right, so let's do a poll. What should DC Studios do with Clayface? Then we'll do Mike Flanagan solo movie. Then we'll do The Batman Part 2 villain. And then we'll do pick another villain. Pick another villain. Okay. Let's see here. Whelm says, Clayface is a great choice. His abilities would lend themselves well to a murder mystery. I hope they use his origin from Batman animated series and make the character both sympathetic and tragic. Yeah, I gotta tell you, I think he's a good choice for Matt Reeves, as long as he doesn't downgrade him too much. I mean, they have to spend the VFX for that great climactic sequence where he just goes full Clay, right? Also, I hate it when they have shape-shifting characters transform off screen. It's okay to do it a couple of times to save money, but I really get tired of it fast when they're like, oh, they changed when they walked behind that pole. I mean, the only time I kind of like it is in X2 because you can still hear the sound of the transformation, but I'm like, I got to see me some transformations. So they'd have to have a good VFX budget. What if, for instance, Clayface did Bruce Wayne? I would love Robert Pattinson to have the opportunity to do that kind of a duality in his performance. I think that'd be fascinating, right? You got Andy Serkis in there. You could duplicate Alfred. I think you got some really good actors who could do a nice job. Now, I do think that Shazam 2 and Black Adam had very good VFX. So I think that DC has a very good VFX supervision situation. And so I'd feel pretty good about that, quite frankly. But what about Mr. Freeze? He better not, as Asami said, maybe Mr. Freeze and Clayface. I'd be a little bit nervous, when you have two villains in a movie, typically one of them gets downgraded significantly and doesn't get enough screen time. I think one of the most famous or infamous examples is Poison Ivy and Bane in, because they also had Mr. Freeze, I guess, in that movie too, and Batman and Robin, and Bane was just her henchman. And you were like, what? So I wouldn't want Clayface just to be in the background. I would hope that Clayface, he would need to be the main villain. And I don't know how often Matt Reeves can get away with using lower tier Batman villains. You're like, buddy, if you really want to get the billion, you have everything else. You need a hardcore, excellent villain. I guess that we'll do one more poll on this. I'm having fun with the polls too today. So we'll end this poll. 55% of you would like to see him as the villain in the Batman Part 2. Only 6% want a solo movie because it's such a bad idea. Guto Ruiz says perhaps Clayface could be an anti-hero in the Batman Part 2. You mean like Catwoman kind of, I guess that would be kind of interesting. So let's see here. Who should be the villain in the Batman Part 2? Part 2. Okay, so Mr. Freeze, who we were promised, Clayface, then let's do Joker, and then we'll do I Trust Matt Reeves. You're like, whatever you want to do, Matt Reeves, which I kind of feel to some degree. I think he's earned a lot of faith after the Batman. I really liked that movie. I thought it was excellent. Brother Quantum says would love to see him as a critique of method acting. Jeremy Strong as Clayface? Oh my God. That would be so funny. It would make me so happy. I like seeing all the Succession actors move on. It's very funny. Very, very funny. All right, so does anybody have any questions about Clayface before we move on to the next story of the day? You don't want Joker, Dylan? That's interesting. Oh, Scarecrow. I don't know. Yeah, although Alexander also wants Scarecrow. I don't know. Can anyone top Hugo Strange from the Gotham television show? There's a poll. There's a poll, Brent. Why can't you see what's going on, Brent? I mean, I'm looking at it and people are voting. So there's definitely a poll. Stephen Turner says in the Batman, different animated series, Clayface was a policeman who tragically got turned into him. I can see that. It doesn't make any. I don't think so. But I mean, Stephen, if it's in another animated series, I guess it's technically canon. But I like the actor because he's a shapeshifter, so that explains how he's able to act like everybody else. Hey, Gregory. Okay. Awesomely Authentic fell asleep in the Batman. What, man? Glalie Master says, DC better do Poison Ivy quick before Marvel does their own environmentalist plant character. Let's make one up. Yeah, DC is so slow. They have great ideas and great characters, but Marvel keeps beating them to the punch. All right, so let me close this poll, and let's get on. Oh, this was good. This was popular. And then we'll get on to the next story. Hey, Travis. Thank you for the kind words. So 44% want Mr. Freeze. That's who you were promised. That's who you want to see. And 35% trust Matt Reeves. That's real great. That's good for him. I think he's earned that. Only 11% want Clayface, and only 8% want Joker. I think that's a combination of being a little jokered out. We already have Joaquin Phoenix's Joker, and then I think not everybody loved what Barry Keoghan did with the character. I thought what he did was good, but I didn't love it. I was like, I could get behind this maybe. Jesse Plemons for Clayface, Sebastian. I'm torn on that. I love Jesse Plemons so much, but I'd be like, he wouldn't have enough screen time. That would concern me. I want to see Jesse Plemons all the time. I think he's so great. All right, let's get on to the next story of the day. Hold on, next story. Boop. All right, so yesterday was so funny. Bob Iger, boy, he hung back and then kapow! 2 punches yesterday, right in the kisser. Daddy Iger means business. That's right, Chamberlain. It was incredible. It's such a stark contrast to the way how Bob Chapek handled things. Bob Chapek was lumbering around, getting into upfront fights with people. But Bob Iger, just like a snake, a genius snake. I have tremendous respect for it. That's right. He rolled up his cardigan sleeves, Mika. He was like, whoa. And he really did a good job here. And it was so aggressive. They were suspiciously quiet about the Reedy Creek situation. And now we know why. It's one of the greatest things I've ever seen. I've never seen a company troll somebody so hard. It was incredible. All right, so let's get started on this one. This is also a two-parter. So what happened in the morning? So in the morning, it was discovered that Perlmutter was fired yet again. Now, everybody had thought that Isaac Perlmutter, a Trump supporter, former owner of Marvel Entertainment, made billions of dollars when he sold to Disney, and he still owns stock to this day, and him being fired isn't going to change anything. He's still a major shareholder in the Disney company. By the way, Monday, huge day. I'm hearing Blue Beetle trailer, potentially the Spider-Verse trailer as well. I hope that's not true. I hope one of them moves if that's the case, because I don't want them back to back on Monday. That's ridiculous. And then also they are going to broadcast the shareholder meeting for Disney. I believe that's at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I think. Let me see. Yeah, 1 p.m. tomorrow. That's quite the day. Quite the day. So that's Monday. All right, so let's see here. All right, so everybody thought that Perlmutter had been fired a long time ago when Feige basically said, if you don't get rid of Perlmutter, I'm going to go to DC. Although Perlmutter also was trying to fire Feige at the same time. Perlmutter and Feige were basically trying to fire each other. Bob Iger sided with Feige, moved him out of Marvel Entertainment over to the studio and made Marvel, the MCU, its own division. And then, they left Marvel Entertainment with, I guess it seems Perlmutter still kind of in charge, at least in charge of merchandising. So he still technically had an office and was working for Marvel. But Perlmutter was causing a lot of problems. You might recall that just a few, I mentioned that, Mika. Just a few weeks ago, Bob Iger revealed that Perlmutter was behind Nelson Peltz trying to do a takeover of the board and grab a seat. And he said that he felt that Perlmutter was behind that. And so I think that's one of the reasons that they got rid of Perlmutter yesterday, once and for all, to make sure that he no longer has any place at the company. Now, I saw some people think that maybe Bob Iger, what he's doing here is cleaning house, getting rid of the problem people. But I don't believe that's necessarily the case, because I think Victoria Alonso, Perlmutter, you think that's what's going on. I think he's certainly taking the opportunity to get rid of maybe some enemies, okay? But I think for the most part, what he's doing is just streamlining the company. I think when they did all these acquisitions, particularly Fox, Disney didn't want to be firing a lot of people. So they kept a lot of duplicate divisions. And a lot of the executive firings that you saw this week, earlier in the week, sorry, my contacts are bothering me a little bit here, that you saw earlier, it might be a glasses day after all, everybody. So anyway, the firings that you saw earlier in the week, a lot of them were people who were from Fox and they ran Fox divisions and they're just going to be folded into Disney. Just like, Perlmutter's section, Iger's like, there's no reason that Marvel proper can't handle this themselves within their purview. So I think that's very interesting. And I think that, it was great to get rid of Perlmutter. And it was a weird headline because, it was not only like, Bob Iger taking care of business, but it was weird that he still even worked there at all. I think that's what took a lot of people by surprise. But it has no effect on the MCU whatsoever because Perlmutter was already out over there. He had nothing to do with that. It really just was like Marvel merch, which is so weird that that's what he was handling. But then in the afternoon, things got really great. Things got really, really great. So as you know, Ron DeSantis has been waging a cultural battle with Disney. It started with the Don't Say Gay bill, but it has gone beyond that. And because Disney spoke up about the Don't Say Gay bill, especially because they were moving so many of their employees to Florida at the time, I don't know if that's still the case, but Ron DeSantis tried very hard to punish Disney by taking away the autonomy that they have over their land. It was called the Reedy Creek Board, and it was dissolved, and instead a Central Florida Tourism Board was created. And instead of it even having a lot of people who are experts in tourism and theme parks, it's stacked with Republicans, people who are loyal to DeSantis, either politically and or financially. And these people felt they were going to have like a choke chain around Disney's neck. And Disney seemed really quiet about it. And everyone was like, how can they be okay with this? And it turns out it's because right before that the old board was disbanded. That's right. It's very Succession, Amparo. I've never seen anything like this in business before. It's shocking because it's not only really clever, and it's above board, but they really gave a giant middle finger to them because this isn't even the first meeting of the board. They just discovered this. They had a celebratory meeting last month where they were like, oh, hey, we're going to do whatever we want. We can't wait to work with Disney, And then they found out that the Reedy Creek Board, right before it was dissolved, they, in a public meeting, although they kind of talked about it, but they didn't talk about it that much. But they did technically talk about it and then post it on their website, so it's not their fault that Ron DeSantis and these people didn't look at it. And they approved a statement which gives them basically, it strips the new board of all of its oversight power and leaves them really just in charge of road work, maintenance, and those kinds of things. And the clause is, as Jerry's pointing out, the clause said, and you might have wondered why King Charles was trending yesterday. That's, of course, Prince Charles, now King Charles III. And the contract states that it will be valid until 21 years after the death of the final descendant of King Charles III. So once Prince Charles / King Charles, once his bloodline dies out, 21 years after that, the contract is null and void. So, I mean, it's just such a crazy blurb, and it's just so crazy that they put that in there. It's just a giant FU to the entire Florida government, which I think is pretty hilarious. I think a lot of us were really concerned about Disney losing a lot of its magic. I think that seems to be an overall concern right now. And I think Bob Iger very much feels that his responsibility is to bring that magic back in. So what else, besides that hilarious clause, what does this contract outline? Well, it says that there can be no cosmetic oversight. They can have, the board has no right to tell Disney what they can or cannot do on their property. Because, for instance, they could say, you can't build a new theme park. That building's too tall. They could just basically make Disney's life very difficult if they felt so inclined. But also, Disney put in something saying that you cannot, I'm not quite sure, like, on the property, if there's some stuff that is on Reedy Creek property, but Disney doesn't technically own it. They said, Reedy Creek, this new board, cannot decide to build anything new on the property without Disney's approval. Because I think they might be concerned that they might build some of their own stuff there, or they might make a deal with another company to put something on the property. And I think they were very nervous about that potentially, which would be horrific. One of the great things about Disney World versus Disneyland is that when you enter the Disney World property, once you go underneath that sign on the highway, you feel very much like you're in a very isolated world. Nothing else intrudes on that. Whereas when you go on the monorail at Disneyland, I remember I went on the monorail at Disneyland one time. I hadn't really ever been there. And I was like, why is everyone sitting on this side of the monorail? Oh, these seats are great. Sat there. When we went by, you could see the McDonald's, all the motels, because Disney doesn't own the full property. So when you looked out the window on that side of the monorail, it was just like you were looking at any highway. And so you get nervous that that could happen. Also, it specifically stated that the new board, could not use Disney in any of their statements or anything that they do, and they can't use any Disney characters. Now, the Disney, this new tourism board that Ron DeSantis put in place said they were very disappointed in Disney and that they had been looking forward to working with them. And you're like, what? The whole thing was for you, again, as I said, very much to put a choke chain around Disney's neck. You do something we don't like, we're going to make you pay for it with your very lucrative theme park. Right now, the theme parks are holding up the whole company. That's why, even though Bob Iger says, oh, I feel like some of the nickel and diming, oh, that's very kind of you, we see, to donate so many memberships. Bob Iger has said he doesn't like all the nickel and diming that they've done in the parks, but they haven't gotten rid of it because it's just generating so much cash. In fact, over spring break, in Disney World in particular, it has been selling out, Genie Plus. And also lightning lanes, where you're paying $20 to ride an attraction per person. So very, very lucrative. And the theme parks are like no joke. Now, so then the board said they're going to hire a very expensive conservative law firm out of Washington, D.C. to try and fight this agreement. Although Disney did release a statement yesterday saying it was done all above board. We talked about it. It was in the public. It was we put it on the website. Everyone could know about it. If you didn't know about it, that's your fault. So I thought that was very interesting. So that was Disney's position. They said it's all above board, and they really don't feel there's anything you can do about it. And Ron DeSantis' board said, well, let's see. But you have to remember, they're going to be spending Disney's money. They're going to be spending Florida's money to fight Disney. And I think at some point, it's just stop spending taxpayer money. Now let me ask you, I'll do a poll. What do you think of Disney versus Florida? So on Disney's side, on Florida's side, Shelley, that's so kind of you to gift 10 memberships. On Florida's side, maybe some of you on Florida's side, let's see, and then don't care. Okay, there you go. You guys are very generous. Wellness says, I don't understand the logic of messing with the biggest employer and tourist destination in Florida. Iger may not be perfect, but he's a genius. He's very smart. It's really it's a political maneuver. I think Ron DeSantis is clearly getting ready to run for president, and I think that that's a topic that he wants to run on. And I think that he wants to be able to say he went up against Disney and won. Now, did he? After you see this? I think that, DeSantis is very much like Trump 2.0, and I think, therefore, his followers either are with him or not. And so I think it's going to be very hard to change any of their opinions about him, just like it's almost impossible to explain or try and talk some sense into someone who's a Trump supporter. So I think that it's not going to hurt him with his base. But I do think that hopefully, like many of the things that he's done, it'll hurt him with the moderate voters. I think he's just too much like Trump for me, so I have serious problems with his candidacy. And I think that, again, the way that he punishes anyone who stands against him is very un-American. So I think it's a little embarrassing. I think it's potential fodder for anyone who's running against him, be it other Republican candidates in the primary or the Democratic presidential candidate, whoever that might be. But, the Democrats and even the other Republicans, when they were fighting Trump in the primaries beforehand, don't seem to fight as hard as they should. It's very frustrating, I think, to watch when you're like, it's right there. Although Hillary Clinton, to her credit, did predict a lot of Trump's behavior, which I'm glad they brought it up. And she doesn't get, no matter what you might feel about how Hillary Clinton conducts her own business, I think that you have to give her credit for really, really pegging Trump and how he operates. Hey, Jerry, that's very kind of you to gift another 10 memberships. Let's see what happens. But yeah, Disney, fantastic. Legend. Stuff of legend. Seattle Law Nerd says, sadly, I think we should all care about this encroachment. It's a huge shift in policy by Republicans. It could be a slippery slope. Yeah, everyone likes it when they feel it's only going against someone they too don't agree with. But, if as soon as someday you might have a disagreement and then you'll have to deal with this. You just simply cannot do that. Anyone have any questions about this? Well, we have a couple of more votes and then we'll move on to the next story. This next one's really good. These are all great stories. Quite a day. Quite a day. Hillary Clinton predicted that he would refuse to accept defeat. And I thought that was impressive. I agree, Dark Savior. It would be nice if we could all get along. That's what artificial intelligence is going to say. Although we built artificial intelligence, so maybe it'll be just as combative. Brent said, oh, Jerry, you gifted another 10 memberships? That's very kind of you. Let's see here. Where did that comment? Brent says, but why fight against Republicans when they'll just spin it another way in their favor? I never talk politics, but leave Disney alone for sure. I think it is difficult. It's difficult in any forum to have a conversation when people are out there willing to say whatever the heck they want. It's very hard to fight people or to even have a conversation with people who will say, who are willing to say whatever they need to win. A conversation I find myself in sometimes, having to combat certain people. Oh, look at everybody being so nice to Jerry. Jerry deserves it. Hanzo says, what actually is the Don't Say Gay bill? Well, that's a very complex discussion. I would urge you to look it up. But it's really a conversation about what can be discussed in certain levels of school. But I feel like I think it's one thing I think that the problem is that the bill seems to only target one type of discussion of sexuality rather than just sexuality in general. And also, I think it makes not a safe space for LGBT students and their parents, LGBT parents and straight parents. And so I think that is where things start to get a little bit tough. Danny says, hey, Grace, my friends and I live in Florida and talk about this a lot. As a New Yorker, is this big news outside of Florida for non-entertainment folks? I think so. Mr. Andrew says, what do you think is the next move of Ron DeSantis? I hope he doesn't spend too much money on that because he'd have to disclose how much he spends on the law firm to fight Disney, and an opponent could bring that up and say, look how much Ron DeSantis spent of your money to do this. I guess there's there's a lot of politicians that you could go through, their budgets and, cherry pick things that make them look bad. I think if Ron DeSantis were smart, he would just move on and maybe bring it up when he's running for president. I think that Disney showed that they were willing to fight back quite aggressively, and everything is on the table. I think that beforehand, Ron DeSantis felt that he had very much beaten Disney into submission and that Disney just had to take it. Oh, thanks, Seattle Law Nerd. No problem. Have a great day. Thank you. Happy Thursday to you, too. And I think now it shows that Disney is not the case whatsoever, and that Disney will not only fight back quite aggressively and effectively, but they're willing to play the long game. And so that means that you don't really know what could be coming your way. So I think it's a good sign to disengage, at least for the time being. All right, so that is, let me see what the poll said. All right, so let's see here. 66%. 65% is on Disney's side, 23% simply don't care, but then 10% is on Florida's side. So that's why the polls are great, because you guys get to anonymously vote, and we get to have a good idea of how people feel about this. So we'll see, and I think that that 10% can be very vocal online, and it's interesting. All right, so let's get on to the next story of the day. All right, hold on. All right, boom, baby. Oh, I like this one a lot. So yesterday I got a little bit of information about the new Daredevil show. Bob Iger continuing to think outside the box. So I heard that the Daredevil Born Again show, which of course is currently filming for Disney Plus, I heard that it will largely have 2 tracks. You might have seen this information in some other places. I'm not quite sure. But this is just a setup for what we're really going to discuss. So it'll be 2 different tracks. Kingpin will be mayor, and Daredevil will be having a case of the week where he solves some kind of problem. Probably a good opportunity for guest stars. But they're not going to interact too much. Daredevil and Kingpin are going to kind of maybe be on separate tracks. I heard there might be a case where he doesn't know who Daredevil is on this show. I mean, it's interesting. Vincent D'Onofrio said this show is going to be quite different. I mean, I can already tell by his cheap suit. On the Netflix show, Kingpin was very well dressed. But here, you can see he's shopping at Big and Tall. I'm surprised at how bad his suit looks. I'm like, that is like really a cheap suit. He looks like an ambulance chaser rather than, Wilson Fisk. Although I guess in the comics, he did wear cheap stuff. But I think the Netflix show made him seem, I think, a little bit more, upscale. And so I think it's jarring for those of us who really loved the show. But yeah, Vincent D'Onofrio says it's going to be real different. It's going to be real different. And then I will also add that I liked Daredevil on the She-Hulk show. I mean, it was different. He still got into a hallway fight. He still looked cool. He did even more flippy flips. I was fine with it. I still thought Charlie Cox was very charming. So I liked Daredevil in the MCU. Really hated Kingpin on Hawkeye. So it'll be interesting to see how this all shakes out. So when I was talking to my source, one of my sources, and my source said that Daredevil would be doing a case of the week kind of a situation. And I said, oh, that's interesting. Could you find out if they're intentionally doing this so that it could air on ABC and Hulu? And my source came back to me and said, yes, that's correct. You nailed it. So let's talk about that, because that to me is what's really interesting. Bob Iger in his first investor conversation, an earnings call after being brought back to Disney, Bob Iger talked about the fact that streaming was not nearly as lucrative as they had thought, and that traditional distribution methods were something that they wanted to look back into because they had been making real money there. So I think that, as you might have noticed, Andor and Mandalorian have played some of their episodes on ABC and Hulu and also FX. Network and cable television. And we had just thought that was to spread the word on them. But what if it was to have more people subscribe to those things or to sell ad space? So it seems that going forward, they're going to start filming all of their shows so that they can be more easily, freeform, right, Mika? So they can more easily be moved around to different distribution methods. That way you could do syndication. You could syndicate these shows, and also you could put them in planes. They could air on an airplane, as in-flight entertainment. They could be in hotels on that entertainment that's provided. It just becomes something that can live in so many other places besides Disney+. I think it will still debut there, but I think that doesn't mean that it can't eventually trickle down somewhere else. Now, what does this mean? It means that the episodes would have to either run about 23 minutes to fit into a half hour or 45 minutes to hit into an hour. To fit into the hour time block, because that's how long this stuff usually is, so that you can have commercials. So look for those running times. Look for 23 minutes or 45 minutes, around there, and that gives enough time to put commercials in there. SMR Goose, will this downplay the violence? I don't think it's going to be a very violent show anyway, because it's going to be on Disney+. However, they could edit out the violence for network, and maybe the episodes could be a little bit longer, but they'll have to have different cuts of it. But I think if the cuts are too different, no one's going to want to watch the network version. And then also they would have to be structured to have ad breaks. When you're watching on Hulu and you have no commercials, I think you can tell where the ad break is supposed to be, right? Sometimes it even dips to black for a second on Hulu. But they have like a cliffhanger moment and they're like, oh, and then you're like, here's where we would cut to commercial. But I'm paying for no commercials. So we just go right back to the show. But you can see where it is. Now, one of you brilliantly pointed out here, let me give you credit. It was on Twitter. Someone responded to me. It was just brilliant. It was Alyssa Lopez. So thank you, Alyssa Lopez. Alyssa Lopez pointed out that she subscribes to Disney with commercials right now, Disney+. And she said that when she's watching, the ad breaks that have to go in are very jarring because the shows are not made for ad breaks. So this wouldn't only work for ABC, Hulu, Freeform, and FX, But it would mean that it would be easier to put ads in on Disney Plus itself, which now, of course, has an ad tier. That blew my mind. I thought that was really smart. Jay says, I hope they don't have the weird scene transitions that Paramount has with its Star Trek shows that are obviously intended for commercial breaks. Yeah, that would be weird. But I think it's very smart. I think it would be interesting to see if maybe that, I mean, the thing is that clearly Bob Iger and all the other studios outside of Netflix are making it clear that the streaming services they built are not sustainable from a financial standpoint. They're putting them in substantial debt. Their spending is not anywhere near what their earnings are, and they need to find a way to continue to make this content, but to make more money off of it. However, I think the quality of the content is what becomes concerning, because one of the reasons that streaming has done so well, in addition to no ads, is that it seems more like a long movie than a television show. And one of the things that makes TV feel like TV are these structural issues that network television and cable television demands. So that to me is a little bit concerning. I'm nervous about it, but I think that, whatever they need. Trace says WandaVision ads jarringly interrupted by actual ads. Oh, that's funny. I didn't think of that because they had those fake ads in there. That's funny. Josh says, would this help talent with residuals? Josh, that's a brilliant point as well. That's true. And maybe they wouldn't have to pay so much up front because eventually they would be able to cut talent in. That's also very interesting. I know that they're going to war about residuals with all the guilds, so that's fascinating to me. Sebastian said, Vincent has said that the blip caused Kingpin to lose his power and money, so that would be the cause for him to have cheaper suits. Oh, that would be cool. Thanks for that, Sebastian. I didn't see that. That will be his, his character arc. I'd love to see him shopping at Big and Tall and being like, what's happened to me? That's hilarious. All right, does anyone have any questions about this before we go to Ask Me Anything? Marco says, I can't believe that Daredevil seems to take shape with just as many flaws as every Phase 4 project. I'm nervous about it. I'm not going to lie. Hey, AA. Just Josh says, I don't mind the commercial breaks in Picard because they don't actually go to commercial. Yeah, I mean, it's a little jarring. I think it makes it seem less artistic, but... Mish says, how present will the Punisher be in the show? I did not hear specifics on that. I just heard that he was going to be a tease at the end of Echo, and that would lead into the new show. That's right, Colton. It would be almost like a week-to-week lawyer show, So there would be some elements that went week to week that were a story that was season long, but you could tune in if you wanted to just whenever and still enjoy the episode that you watched. Steven, yes, that is true, but we're not on that. They did hire a new writer for Thunderbolts from Beef. I'm excited for Beef. Beef comes out next week. It's great to see a lot of Asian talent getting, a lot of people wondered when different demographics would get their time in Hollywood, and it seems like Asian talent behind and in front of the camera is really having a moment, and that's exciting. Maria said, barely made it while starting my workday here in Southern California. Taking an early break for me. Thank you, Maria. I appreciate it. That's a nice picture. Bell Trailer says, Marvel's Law and Order. I would get nervous about that. Mika says, Grace, do you think Marvel will hire more network TV writers now? Maybe. They could. They potentially could. That's something else that could come out of this. That's interesting. Justin Simpson says, do you think we'll finally see an appearance of Blackheart in the Daredevil TV show? I haven't heard anything about that, but I think with 18 episodes to fill, you're going to see a lot of people. Josh says, it could be like what we hoped She-Hulk would be. That would be nice. Thank you for gifting the one membership, Mr. Real Shane. Rashad said, would the ads be only Disney-related stuff? I think it depends where it airs. For those of people who have ads on Disney Plus now would know how that's working. But I think if it aired on ABC, it would be for anything. Just like any ABC show. Dejaneba says, I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly, would never happen, but would they ever close down Disney Plus? Like let a streaming service die? I don't think so. They have way too many subscribers, but I think clearly they feel they're not getting enough bang for their buck on the content that they're making for the service. Mr. Andrew says, when is this show supposed to debut? Oh, I'm not even sure right now. Maybe in 2024. And then I heard some scooper saying it was going to be in 2 parts, 2 halves. Although somebody also pointed out on Twitter yesterday that the 18 episodes is almost a network season. Usually those are 22 to 23 episodes. So that's also very interesting. FM Sorcerer says, is network TV alive enough still for this? Yes, it is. I think that you're still they still wouldn't be making it. And I think that they're making tremendous money off of ad sales. So I think that's where real value comes in. I think that a lot of people who watch network TV, probably that's who commercials work best on. So companies are probably willing to spend quite a bit of money to advertise on network television still. All right, let's go to the Q&A section. You can ask me anything that you would like now. Hold on for 10 minutes. There we go. It's 1:17. Oh, we're doing good on time. So until 1:27, you may ask me anything that you would like. Bren says, do a poll on who watches network TV. That's a good idea. Okay. Do you watch network TV? Yes. Sometimes. Not really. And then I don't even have network television. All right, there you go. Chandler says, is the lack of revenue for streaming services a bad look for Iger and other Hollywood execs? I think it's surprising. I think it's real surprising because Netflix made so much money off of it. But I was asking somebody about that. I'm glad you brought that up. I was asking someone I know in the industry. I had a really good conversation on Friday about this, and I was like, why does Netflix make so much money and other studios don't? And this person pointed out that Netflix spends a tremendous amount of money to build their global brand. And so therefore, they're able to get far more subscribers. They still have about double the Disney Plus subscribers. And the reason they get so many subscribers overseas is because they create content specifically for them, which is in the native language of each country. And then and also Netflix is really into dubbing. So everybody can watch everything. But you'll notice that Disney still is really only programming for the Western market. And that's changing a little bit. And everything is English language. And they do some dubbing. They have dubbing, but I don't think they have dubbing to the degree that Netflix does. Netflix is a dubbing factory. That's easy for you to say. Says, did you hear about Scott Pilgrim? Yes, they announced an anime show today, and I was surprised it didn't trend more. I'm sure Netflix was surprised too, speaking of Netflix. They should be careful about that. Oh, thank you, Sensation. You're really so sweet. I think Netflix is going to find that might be a little bit like Cowboy Bebop all over again. Jerry J says, Ben Affleck spoiled Gal Gadot's presence in The Flash. Yeah, Ben Affleck, he's pretty aggressive against the new DC. Daniel Harity says, Grace, you're looking forward to Air. Very much so, very much so. Oh, Mr. Andrews, I'm so glad you're enjoying the poll. Galliot Production says, Wonder Man is the show I'm most looking forward to. Yeah, I hope it's going to be good. That sounds to me like it might be a half-hour show, right? All right, let's see here. Jennifer says, next day on Hulu. That would be interesting. I just want them to change the 3 a.m. drop. I got to tell you, I think the 3 a.m. drop is killing Disney Plus shows. Because by the time the evening rolls around, you really honestly feel like it's old news. Because it dropped early in the morning. So if you don't watch it like early in the morning, I think you're like, eh. Max says, hey Grace, glad to catch the tail end of the stream. Hope you enjoyed me reciting your Ms. Marvel review. I did. It was very funny. I thought that was a funny tweet. Ivan Sarmiento says, how do you feel? Oh, that was interesting, Ivan. That was definitely interesting. Let's see here. Thanks, Jack Frost. I appreciate your kind words, and that's very generous of you. You guys are all very sweet. I really appreciate your support. Even when the chips are down, that means a lot. As they say in John Wick, being a friend would be meaningless if you only did it when it was easy. And so you guys are great. That was nuts yesterday. That was nuts. I guess I'll address it in just a second. But let me get to these other questions. Gregory Mitchell says, I finally joined to ask if you have ever heard of the TV show called Snowfall. I have heard of it, and I saw that it just wrapped, and I saw that they're going to be doing like a spin-off, right, maybe. So that's great. But I have not seen it myself. Shlok, you gifted a membership. That's so kind. And Jerome says, any news on X-Men 97? I haven't heard anything new about that. I'm sorry. Jakra, hey Jakra, thanks for joining. Charlie says, Grace, what would you think about a Truman Show HBO series, like a reboot, like the Truman Show? That's my dream project. I would watch the crap out of that. That's great, Charlie. I love your enthusiasm for it. Maybe someday you can pitch it. I think that could be interesting, especially today, right? JSN The Myth says, I have at least 6 subscription services. It's almost as much, if not more, than cable. Yeah, it's getting expensive, I have to say. And then Alexander Wilson says, I have Disney Plus with ads, and the ads aren't jarring to me, but maybe I have been used to ads from Hulu. There are a lot of commercials from financial, fast food, retail, and militaries from what I've seen. Oh, that's it. Military on Disney Plus? That's interesting. And then Marco says, why is a certain creative executive killing online conversation about his own projects? Well, I think, he created a trap for himself where now his fans ask him to verify everything. And if he doesn't verify it, they believe it's true or not. I think it's not good. I just thought yesterday was totally unnecessary. And I still to this day stand behind what I tweeted last night. And I also found out this morning that, multiple sources, other scoopers got the Logan Lerman information and didn't want to share it. And I think as you can see what happened to me yesterday, you can see why. Because it's just created a space where it's impossible to cover. Let's see here. Yes, I'm hoping to do the Mando review tomorrow. Oh, yeah, let me end the poll. Let's see here. But, I told you I hate injustice, and I'm not going to let anybody push me out of doing stuff. Do you watch network TV? 40% of you don't even have it. Only 9% of you do watch it. That's interesting. Let's see here. Antonio says, Grace, thank you so much for bringing Succession into my life. Wow, incredible. Can't wait to start season 4. I didn't like the first episode. I thought it was a little bit repetitive of before. But I hope it gets better. But I love Succession. I love that show. Charlie says, do you have any The Boys or Gen VT? I did hear that Gen V has to do some reshoots. They're going to change some stuff. And so I heard that could potentially delay The Boys. I don't think out of this year. But I heard that it could potentially delay The Boys' release just a little bit, if they still decide to have Gen V come out first. Vincent says, when do you think we'll get Harley Quinn season 4? I'm not sure. I'm surprised we haven't gotten an announcement about it yet. Zachary says, any chances for Kristen Ritter returning soon? I did hear a long time ago that Kevin Feige was a fan of her performance. So I think, yes, I think it's very possible that she could return. I haven't heard anything about it specifically. I heard that she was going to be the Punisher type character that linked the two shows, Echo and Daredevil, but they instead went with Punisher. Alexander Wilson says, don't forget that Netflix lost $10 billion in cash. But they still make so much other money, though, right? I mean, I think they're pretty cash rich. Daniel Haradi says, I hope Air is very business centric. I hope so, too. I'm excited. It looks really good. Nova, I'm trying to go back here to see your comment. Dipan Patel says, hey, Grace, will you be reviewing the new Makoto Shinkai film since you loved your name? It made $50 million in China. It's Chinese opening last week. I don't know if I'll be reviewing it. I did love Call Me By Your Name. No, Call Me By Your Name was the other movie. Your Name was the anime. I thought that was great, but I don't know if I'll be reviewing this one. Hey, Ryan K. Kung Fu Barbie says, why do streaming shows release midnight? Wouldn't it be better to release in the evening and have everyone watch at the same time? Oh, you must be on the West Coast, Kung Fu Barbie. Yeah, I think that... I think it would be better if they aired in the evening and everyone could watch them. I think HBO has the perfect business model right now. Hey, John Birch, thanks for joining. Will Tompa says, hey, Grace, I just had my Disney College Program interview. Oh, break a leg. I think it went well. I'm so excited. I hope you get in, Will. That's a wonderful program. Let's see here. Where does your... Nova, I don't see your comment at all. Where did it go? That's weird. Oh, Nova. I see a lot in history. Great leaders choose bad successors like Bob Iger and Bob Chapek. That's interesting. I still feel that Bob Iger picked Bob Chapek because he wanted Bob Chapek to do all the crappy stuff and he could do the fun stuff, and Bob Chapek didn't want to do that. He wanted to be the new Bob Iger, and that's kind of why that soured. see here. Let me catch up to where we are. Christian Joe says, hope you saw our tweet yesterday. Wanted to make sure you got your deserved credit as always. Thank you. You guys were wonderful yesterday. It was great. Let's see here. Tammy says, hey Grace, random question. Do you follow any sports? It's opening day in baseball today. Just want to hear you say, go Nats. I like going to a baseball game. I'm not a big sports fan. I'm getting more into football. I like going to sporting events, but I don't really follow any sports. But I kind of am getting interested I got interested in last year's football season or this year's football season. So I might get more into sports. It will be okay, says I recently joined Twitter and saw the fiasco yesterday. That's funny. Yeah, it was crazy. There was even no reason for him to weigh in on it at all, quite frankly. Already says, do you think WandaVision was successful because it was the first Disney Plus show? I ask myself that. Well, Reddy, I had heard that, as I told you the other day, that they spent a considerable more amount of money on the first Disney Plus Marvel shows than they do now. So I think that's another difference that you see there. And I think now they're a little bit more trying to be more like TV, and maybe that's why they're not gelling quite as much. Steven, I didn't see that video. Chamberlain says, do you feel all these MCU delays will actually fix this Marvel is Dead problem that the online community is pushing? The only thing that will fix that is if they start to do well again. They have to be strong in the ratings and they have to be strong at the box office. That will shut that conversation down. And so maybe this will fix it. Hey, Nuno, welcome back. Dream. That's very kind of you as well. Thank you. Any Hitchcock project you would like to see redone like Vertigo? I thought A Perfect Murder was better than the original. Mine would be Notorious. First great spy thriller, so underappreciated. Oh, that would be good. As I told you, I think, I'm fine with Vertigo being redone. I think you could do, but I wouldn't do shot-for-shot remakes of these things. If you can bring something interesting to the conversation, then I think, and you can update it in an interesting way, then I think it's worth redoing. The Man Who Knew Too Much, that's been redone twice already. I think there's some good stuff there, but it's a tall order to redo Hitchcock. His work is just so good. I think that I wish more people would watch classic movies because there's so much great stuff there that I think it's worth visiting. John Birch says, sorry, but those Jonathan Major texts read like someone who's scared of him. Like apologize for putting him in that situation. Yeah, she definitely seemed like she was very scared of losing him. And you don't know what that context of that is. I would not have released those texts. I think they are bad. Matko says, do you think Disney made a mistake opening the whole vault rather than a staggered release? You mean like Netflix or HBO Max have things coming and going? There's something to be said for that. I've rewatched all the Disney animation at this point, where the other day I was like, I've seen it all so many times now. I think it did lose a little bit of the special quality of it. So, maybe that's something else they should consider doing. And that would also maybe help combat churn. But the problem is that a lot of people use Disney Plus for babysitting. Harrison says, check out tennis. It's the only sport I'm into. Great sport for rooting for individual people. Oh, that's interesting. You saw me tweet the other day. I'm thinking of maybe taking golf lessons. Marco, Deadpool 3, I think you're right. Deadpool 3 is shaping up fascinatingly. Matthew McFadden, I heard, is playing a huge role in the movie, and I think he's a great casting addition. That cast is incredible. Justin says, if you want juicy drama, you have to catch up on Vanderpump Rules. That's too much drama for me. I'm not a Vanderpump Rules fan, even though I love Lisa Vanderpump. Aiden says, hey, Grace, any chance of a new Transformers trailer? I haven't heard anything, but, I'm sure, obviously, we're going to be getting another one. Voice Inject says, what do you think of Hickman's X-Men stuff? They've kind of lost me a little bit, but I still am reading it. All right, let me see any other comments here. Hey, Siderius. Aaliyah says, what sparked your interest in golf? I was watching a Mrs. Maisel episode where all these deals were done for the new season, and they have a golf-centric episode where all these deals are done on the golf course, and I was like, It's golf, or Ouroboros Snakes just said golfing is great for business. I was like, is that much cool stuff really happening on the golf course? Maybe I should get into that. So that's what happened. I was kind of like, yeah, maybe, is golf a happening place? Is that where people are doing stuff? So I just became interested in it. Also, I think it would be fun to go to a country club and have a nice lunch after playing golf. I watch Curb Your Enthusiasm. It looks fun, right? I'm like, it seems to be a cool thing to do. Melody T says, Grace, I'm a big fan. Did you get nuggets on Monday? I did, Melody T. I like that illustration you have there. I did get nugs. It was great. And I finished Shadow and Bone Season 2, which I thought was okay, but it wasn't great. It was watchable, is how I would describe it. And that's what I needed on Monday. Juan also says take golf, but I need a glove. I feel it just adds to the awesomeness of it. Oh, Lisa, I'm glad you're getting into Clone Wars. And I hope you're watching Bad Batch too. It's such a good show. Oh, let's see here. Hey, Jay says, played golf in high school and college. I loved it, and it pays dividends at my job now too. Oh, see, I got to get into golf. Travis Parkerly says, any news on when Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 tickets will go on sale? I have not heard anything, but I saw some people saying it would be next week, maybe? I mean, I don't know how that movie's going to do. It looks good to me, I've liked all the trailers, but I haven't seen them spark a lot of conversation. And I liked the holiday special, although that didn't seem to get a lot of traction either. But I'm still excited for it, and I'll be curious to see if it delivers. It's going to be very interesting what happens after Quantumania. Alexander Wilson says, I think Disney Plus has a path to profitability with ads and raising prices. They haven't expanded the ad tier intentionally yet. Hulu brings in $2 billion in ads revenue by themselves, and they are mostly domestic. I think you meant internationally, right, Alexander? That's incredible. That's an incredible amount of cash. But I don't like, I'll pay not to watch the ads. Little Baby Pizza says, and I get to wear plaid golf outfits. Oh, Angela Rossi says, hi, Grace. Hope all is well. What happened on Twitter yesterday? I missed it. I'm so sorry you had an accident, Angela. Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. Well, you can kind of see my tweets about Superman. And you can kind of see what happened there. It was a lot of craziness, basically just more DC drama. It was just crazy. But I'm very sorry to hear you were in an accident, Angela. I know you're very close with your brother. I hope that he's helping you out. And I'm glad that, you seem to be on the mend. Let's see here. What else is happening here? Oh, we're way over. Hold on. You got a new dog, Matt? That's fantastic. Congratulations. Yes, Brent. Brent paid for my nuggets. That was very kind. He gave a very nice donation and said, these are for nugs. And for nugs they were. Pacific Coast Highness says maybe Disney will sell Hulu to Comcast and get Hulk and Namor rights in the deal. Well, that was just the idea that some analyst had that hasn't actually been put forward by anybody actually. But it could happen. I mean, maybe Bob Iger, maybe Daddy Iger says Daddy likes that. I'd love it if he said that in meetings. Daddy likes that. If they're making $2 billion, I think Comcast said they weren't sure if they wanted to have Hulu either, because they might try and buy HBO Max. They're like, or whatever, Max, whatever it ends up being called. So they'll be like, nobody wants to buy all of Hulu. Just Josh says, why do early viewings of movies like Tonight with Dungeons and Dragons not count toward opening weekend numbers? Well, they would Thursday do. Thursday night gets rolled into Friday. The question is, do last night's screenings count? I think sometimes they will roll in the previews. I mean, they said it's now tracking for 65, which would be fantastic for that movie. Damani says, any thoughts on the new Wanda comics and the new Storm covers? Well, I think that Russell Dauterman, who was the artist on my comic book, Superbia, is incredibly talented, and I'm so happy to see him continuing. I wish he was doing more interiors. He's really good at interiors. His ability to pick angles and stuff like that, camera angles, is fantastic. He did such a good job on Thor when he did Lady Thor. The Mighty Thor, I'm sorry. But I have not particularly cared for the writing on the Wanda comic, unfortunately. Bye, Cosmics. All right, just a couple. Let me do some shout outs. Yes, Mr. Andrews, there will be a stream tomorrow. I'm not quite sure what time it will be. Probably like around this time. Maybe around 2, maybe. It'll be in the early afternoon tomorrow though, because I'm going to see a play tomorrow evening. So it'll be earlier in the day. But I promised you 3 streams a week. We've only done 2. We are definitely going to be streaming tomorrow. Shlok, why can't you send super chats? That doesn't make any sense. That's weird. I hope you guys see Dungeons and Dragons. I'm going to see it again this weekend. I'm very excited. It's a great movie. Oh, I can't say what I'm seeing tomorrow. I'll tell you after I do. I always got to be careful about security. Did I miss any other comments? I think I got everything. All right, everybody. Let's see here. Just a couple quick shout outs. What are you up to? So I can just say hi. Yeah, that's right, Tay. I heard about Danny DeVito for White Lotus Season 3. Is that official now? Let's see here. Raymond says, do you like Mexican food? How much is your rent? Raymond! I do like Mexican food quite a bit. Brett, I didn't see yours. I don't see it, Brett. I'm sorry. That's weird. So we're just doing shout outs right now because I got to get going. Heather says, seeing Dungeons and Dragons next week due to your schedule. That's fine. It's not like a big spoilery movie. You'll be fine. Alex says, enjoying my first stream as a member with a gifted membership. Oh, hooray! Mr. Andrews said, I decided to finish work early to join the stream. Oh, greetings from Barcelona, right? Did I say that correctly? That's wonderful. I've never been, but what a great place to be, Mr. Andrews. You're very lucky. And I'm so glad that you took off a little early so you could join. Logan says, say hi to my best buddy, Pablo. Hey, Pablo, in Florida. Go to Disney World for me, Pablo. And Paro says, booking my, what are you seeing? Alcatraz this Saturday in I assume tickets. Oh, I've never been to Alcatraz. Are you going to San Francisco? I hope you have a great time. Go to Ghirardelli Soda Shop and get ice cream sundae. My favorite is the cookie one. That's my favorite one. Travis, I missed your super chat again, Travis. Hold on. Don't super chat now, though. Eddie Wu says, I'm home in Jersey for spring break. I've been catching up on your vids during my flight. Thanks, Eddie. And I'm glad you're back. Gamer on a Budget says, Ilyana or Colossus for MCU X-Men? I guess, I'm not sure. Travis, why are your comments coming through? Are you sure you're doing it correctly? Or I would be seeing them, I think. That's weird. Let's see here. David Quavoto says, about to have pizza with supervisors and employees here in the office. I just realized I'm a gold member. Oh, wow. You're having an office party? That's fantastic. I love it. John Thrasher says, my first stream as a member. Do you do everything on your own? Appreciate you. Thank you, John. I'm glad you're a member now. I do most of the things on my own. I do work with some other people, but the day-to-day is me. So I can, I'm built for speed. That's the goal. I used to work with an editor at some points when I've been doing this channel, and it was just too slow. Mish says, washing my hair after the stream. Awesome. I hope you have good shampoo. And then Eric McDermott says, Chonky the cat just sat on me. Chonky? Well, then I guess you really felt it. That's so cute. That's a cute name. And then Shlok says, love this community and the generosity of everyone here. You guys really are wonderful. I love spending this time with you. It's such a treat. I'm so glad that I leaned into the live streams because I'm having just as much fun, if not more fun than you guys are. And I'm so glad that you're enjoying them. It makes me feel really happy. Hey, John says, I'm a digital producer for TV, so I appreciate your work. So you know the grind. You know the grind. And Bob Ray says, we'll be sleeping after the stream since it's almost 2 a.m. Oh, that's crazy. I'm glad you were able to join in. And then Rashad said, just got to work at the spa in Las Vegas. So good to see you, Rashad. Oh, you're moving tomorrow, Rashad. Oh, that's cool. I hope it looks good. I hope you like your new place. Thank you all for the kind words, by the way. You're just absolutely wonderful. I really love you guys. You're great. I will see you tomorrow. Okay, bye, everybody. Bye. Toodles.